What's up, people? Today we're going to review the differences between the Gen 1 Viper RT10 as well as the Gen 2 Viper GTS. I'm Casey Putsch, this is my channel, and I'm actually the owner and driver of both of these cars, so it's going to be, believe it or not, an intelligent Dodge Viper review. Also, if you're not subscribed, you've got to do so, because coming up on Monday, I'm going to unveil my most epic build ever to come, which is going to be powered by a Viper 8-liter V10. It's codename Jabberwock Jackwagon. And actually, with this build, I'm going to create a chapter of history for the Dodge Viper that never got to happen but should. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be something for the street, something for the track, and something so insane none of my fans have been able to guess what it is. So today I'm here by myself, going to describe it and throw you some B-roll on here. But a lot of you know, of course, my 1997 blue with white stripes Viper GTS. Had the car for a very long time, and I've owned it twice. Twice because, for all of those of you who are a VinWiki fan, you'll remember my very first VinWiki tale of this Dodge Viper and having it, and how some goober decided to blaze across 5 lanes of traffic where they were only legally allowed to turn right, and I ended up T-boning them. I was driving legal speeds and being very normally, but the car got totaled and went away. And then eventually I got it back and fixed it all up, because I intend to keep it forever and drive it, because Vipers are actually an awesome car to live with, maintain, and drive. So we're going to talk about some of the myths. This particular car's got about 100,000 miles on it right now and has also been featured on Petrolicious. So go check those out on VinWiki as well, Petrolicious, love the channels. And we have the newest edition. This is titled as a 1993 Viper RT10, but it was in fact built in December of 1992. That's somewhat interesting when you get into the pedantic little details, but it's kind of just fun, right, to say it's the first production year of Dodge Viper. That particular car is serial number 30. It's actually 00030, which is cool, and you would think normally that's the production it was made, but since it was made in December of 92, it's actually probably like the 260th Viper built, but maybe it was just like the 30th one ordered or something like that. But in any case, it's now my car, and I'm very, very excited about that because I love them. I love fast cars. I love nasty cars. And both of these cars came from a time, but more specifically this one, because this was the original Dodge Viper. It's a car that never should have existed based upon the cultural climate of America and safety regulations and all that BS that gets in the way of just having a good time and making things happen efficiently and being cool, right? But fortunately, back in the early 90s and late 80s, we had badass CEOs that kind of just did what they wanted. And then you get people like Bob Lutz in there that are like, screw it, let's just build another Cobra from the 60s, but make it even more insane. That's where you got basically the 8-liter all-aluminum V10 engine that basically they had their people with Chrysler at Lamborghini, which was owned by them at the time, then create and cast the engine block and do things relating to the architecture. Now, a beautiful thing about all these Dodge Vipers from this time period are they're very lazy. They're very lazy American cars. Yes, it's true, Europeans, but that's a good thing, because unlike your super high-strung, small displacement cars, they just go and go and go and go and go forever. Let's never mind all the little things where they're rough around the edges, but like I said, about 100,000 miles on it, and I don't care, because it still just kicks as much butt as it did before. And do you really see that many older Lamborghinis and Ferraris with that many miles on it? No. So that's the cool thing about Dodge Vipers. If you just maintain them reasonably, you can basically just change oil like any old thing. Now, getting into some of the differences we're going to have fun just talking about today, and then I want to kind of crescendo with the ownership of both and what they're good for, like what's my favorite, what's fun to drive. And we're going to come back with actual driving footage. So for all of you people who are like, Casey, why aren't you driving? Why don't you have a production crew and drone footage and people chasing you and doing all this? And why don't you just create an action flick? Because I'm like one guy, man. We'll get there. So next week I'll do one and we'll drive the cars. This isn't like how to drive and not wreck a Dodge Viper. Newsflash, basically just don't suck at driving. So getting into it, so RT10 versus the GTS. Now, about now, GTSs are commanding a premium monetarily over an RT10. Reason being is a couple of things. One, most dudes that like these cars that are stick shift, by the way, all Vipers are stick shift. None of these older cars have traction control, ABS. That one doesn't even have side windows, because it just doesn't matter. We just don't care. And that's not a detriment. That just tells you the nature of how badass the cars actually are. But the coupes do command a premium. In many ways, they're arguably prettier or sexier in that sort of way, even though this has got the hips where you want them. It's kind of like a snake. But the GTS is a stiffer car in terms of the chassis, and it's far more usable in the real world. You can drive at faster speeds. You don't have all the wind just blowing you around. You can have a stereo system in it. You can hear better because it's an actual enclosed cockpit fixed coupe. Also, the trunk on the GTS, which, let's see, do I even have the key on me? Yes, I do. Hooray! The trunk on the GTS is frankly a lot bigger, and you open it by just opening the glass. Mine, of course, is again fitted with that giant subwoofer, of which you guys will remember from about a week ago I plugged my electric guitar into and tried to blow up all the speakers. It was a lot of fun. Check it out. So it's got a more usable trunk, it's got roll-up windows on the side, and it's got locks. Wow, it is luxury. Yes, out here in the American frontier. But I digress. It's more usable if you're gonna go on a road trip with it. I've driven it cross country. Obviously you can get rained on and it's not a big deal, and it's a usable car in that regard. It's just bare bones in that, like I said, there's no traction control, there's no ABS, it's got power steering, that's got electric windows, no cruise control, you know, none of that crap you don't need if you just wanna be a rough and tumble cool race car driver kind of driver person on the street. Now the RT10, the early ones, which one this is, back from 92 up to I think 1995, they had no roll-up side windows. They didn't even really, they had locks, but they were pointless. So, and it's in the trunk. I'll show those to you guys another time when we do like a deep dive review, Aussie man style. But it's got side curtains that clip on and screw on with flexible windows with a zipper. And then it's got a horrible roof that you put on that's pointless. Now, a lot of people joke about that and think it's crappy and then like sort of as a detriment to what this car is. But the truth of the matter is the side curtains, as they're called, as well as the soft top, is really no different than what an AC Cobra would have had back in the 60s, or things like a Morgan 4.4. So it kind of really just goes back into the day of the 60s when you just didn't care. Just, you know, and grow a pair and drive a car and be cool. You know, it's like rain, whatever, drive faster. Same sort of thing, because to be able to have roll up windows and locks and all that, you know, it takes weight, it costs more money, it's pointless, you don't need it. So let's just put all effort into making it look sweet, go fast, and be badass. And that's what that car is. And that's what makes it so special, because the OG Viper should never have existed. And even in back 1992, when people were more cavalier and not PC as it is in this day and age, even then, it was still something out of time, like the crazy fever dream of the madman CEO with too much money, cigars, and probably a personal fighter jet, which actually Bob Lutz does have his own tiny personal fighter jet, even though it's a tiny Czechoslovakian light fighter that's subsonic, and everybody thinks it's cool like he's got an F-22 or something. He's not that cool, but I digress. So that's what makes this car cool. Also, it has side pipes. Yes, which is something else of myth, because this car also has its exhaust going through the side, but then on the GTS and the later RT10s from, I believe, 96 and on, the exhaust then comes out the back. It made it a little nicer. But these cars with stock exhaust, the GTS, the side sills can still get hot, much like these early ones did. Now, the reason the side sills would get hot is because you put a big old muffler in there and you put a big old catalytic converter, and then all that American horsepower is gonna get in there and crammed up. It's gonna get kind of hot under the collar. And yeah, it's gonna heat up, so it's gonna heat up the sides. But when you do things like sport exhausts and such, and do a little modifications, you can get a little airflow through there, it's perfectly fine. So that's one of the myths about Vipers, are that they'll burn you. Well, first of all, you know, like, don't put your hand on the stove. Secondly, what do you expect? There's badass exhaust in there and side pipes. Yes, which is cool on the RT10 because the exhaust comes out like right here and points down a little bit. So when you're driving it and there's like dust and stuff on the ground, it goes poof and makes dust clouds, which is kind of awesome. But you go through a drive-through and it's loud. You might want to shut your car down, not to be a total pain in the butt. And then of course the RT10, or excuse me, the GTS with the exhaust coming out the back, especially if it's an sport exhaust or you got tubular headers, gives you kind of a higher RPH, more raspy wha-bam noise. Whereas the side pipes, it's cool on this car, and we're gonna come back to a video and showcase that. It's such a low frequency. It's like absurdly low frequency. Even if you get a big block muscle car with a, you know, a lopey camshaft from the 60s, it's still gonna be like brop, 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 right? And you think of that as low and rumbly. No, this is even more like crazy low. In fact, I think it basically creates the sissy PC culture perfect brown note. If you rev an early Dodge Viper RT10 with sport exhaust on the side pipes, it'll get sissy people to crap their pants. And that's pretty much awesome. But in all seriousness though, talking about the frequency, I started this car up, pulled it out of my garage, and my garage doesn't work because I'm in a fixer-upper house right now. So I had to go back to the garage and lock it and come out the front of the house. And even with it just idling at a low idle, it was such a low frequency that it was making the windows on the front of our house actually rattle. And it was just idling. And it was, you know, parked a fair distance away. So it's kind of nifty. It's very different. I did hear a long time ago like a media person wrote something and compared it. It's like, oh, it's just like a UPS truck, duh. Which, keep in mind, anybody in the media and automotive media just come up with nasty things to say all the time, to squish things, to make them sound cool, to get people to like it. And that's where basically all myths come from. And that's the reason why all DeLoreans were slandered for all the time, but I'm digressing. I've got another video on DeLorean wrongly slandered. Check that out. So Dodge Vipers were kind of all about the myth, because when they came out, they were the car that shouldn't have been, but it was so awesome that it was, because it created a chapter of automotive culture that gives certain people everything they would want and everything that they could dream of. And that's why I love so much being an owner. Now, going beyond it, of course, this car still has its 3-spoke wheels that originally came out, and a lot of people don't like them. I actually really do, because it was an awesome concept at the time, coming out of the 80s into the early 90s, and this reflects just that. So for the people that don't like their 3-spoke wheels and go after something else, I'll just say, why do you want to be like everybody else, man? Are you cool or are you not? Who cares if it's in fashion at the time? It's always going to come back. So you be you and like something because it's good, i.e. boom, the Viper. Now, both cars can be super reliable, and I'm not going to go into all the super pedantic little details, but there's some little teething issues you might want to do to an early one, such as things like head gaskets and like the thermostat, what time it comes on, and the fans and exhausts and stuff like that. And the alarm system's kind of stupid, and you need to have a little jumper wire to make it not be stupid occasionally if the battery goes dead or something like that. But generally, it's been a super reliable car. Got it obviously secondhand from a family that, and this is a funny story, both of these cars I sort of had possession of at one time, and then they went away and they came back. It's kind of like they say, if you love something, set it free. And then if it comes back, it was meant to be. Well, yes, both of these cars were meant to be. That one I owned a long time ago. I adored it. Some idiot pulled out in front of me, even though I was just driving home normally, and it got totaled, and that sucked. But then I got it back and fixed it up and keep it forever and drive it. This car, I was actually working as a small classic car dealership and acquired it and then sold it to a nice family who took really good care of it. And I remember forever and I really liked it. And finally I got into a position where I am not entirely broke, and I decided I had to do it, and I'm really glad I did. So here's the big difference with basically the driving experience. So this one is not really stock anymore. As just a note, it's got bigger tires, bigger wheels and tires on it, because actually there's only like one set of tires you can get for the original Vipers, and they're really expensive. They're like $2,500 a set, the Michelin Pilots. That's the only one you can get for it. It's kind of like owning Lamborghini Countach. There's only like one set of tires you can get, and they're really expensive. So in this car, the one that I drive a lot, I still have the original wheels, but I got these forged stars because I could get forged wheels of the same size as the new Vipers, which means I can get like Pirelli ZR rated tires for like a few $100s more than the price of just a set of tires for the original. So I got the wheels and tires for hardly any more. So that was a good thing for driving it a lot. Also, this one's got coilover shocks, and then I corner weighted it, so it's really planted well, you know, like all the corner weights are equal and stuff, or at least proportioned properly. It's got vented and slotted disc brakes on a little bit different pads. It's got a cold air intake box with K&N filters right there at the NACA this particular one has the Hennessy wing, which is kind of a neat period thing for the 90s. I know a lot of people like to dog on it, called a Super wing. And I'll be like, excuse me, Viper and Hennessy is cooler than your Supra. That's a Hennessy wing. Just saying. And people say it's not functional. I disagree. It is totally functional as a table, and I like to use it as such. So it's there, and even if I wanted to take it off, there'd be holes, so let's just leave it on. It's got a short shift kit. I also decided airbags are for sissies, so I took that malarkey out, and I put in a sweet older Fittipaldi steering wheel because the ergonomics are awesome. And then with the short shifter kit, I made my own shifter and have a really cool, boom, aluminum shift knob that's just direct, metal into metal and a metal short shift, feels like a bolt action rifle. And my Army Ranger helicopter pilot buddy got way too excited when he shifted it one day. Kind of creeped me out, Phil. So anyway, beyond that, what else has it got? Oh, it's got really loud exhaust and a bunch of malarkey like that. But the beauty is I can just change oil, drive it, keep it clean, and it's an awesome car. to live with more. But it's a little raw. It's a little nasty, you know, a little kind of racy, a little kind of wild. Even with me, if I drive it for a few weeks and it's hot in the summer because the air conditioning doesn't really work anymore, it kind of is like, okay, maybe I need a break for a little while, ride a motorcycle or something. Now this car is actually, I would call it kind of a pussycat. I know that sounds silly, but after driving this one that's got a little more edge for the modifications, I didn't realize how much I would actually adore an RT10, because I don't care about a roof. I don't care about side windows. It just doesn't matter. In fact, if I want to, I just hop in and you can just get in like this, like an old race car. And I love that. Of course, you're gonna get footprints on your seat, but it's, you know, it's just a rough and tumble great guy's car to just bang around in. So for me, an RT10 is really the perfect car to just blast around the city or your neighborhood, out on country roads, and just go, you know, rule kind of old school American. And you don't care about the top. Okay, if it starts raining, just drive faster. Get a little wet. The interior is not, it's not really having all these accoutrements of French stitched Connelly leather and all those things that very expensive. No. It's like plastic and vinyl and leather and stuff. You know, if it gets a little wet, it's not gonna matter that much. The seats are pretty comfortable. They got good bolstering and whatnot. And the early car, no airbag either, so steering wheel is kind of nice. And this car is generally very stock with the exception of having louder exhaust. And honestly, I really like it just the way it is. It's pretty comfy. It's frankly even easier to drive. The side pipes give it a cool presence just to be like boom, 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 you know, those toe heel double clutching downshifts just for fun in the city to let everybody know you're coming, and the streets are yours. So this car is kind of all about presence and just loving life and feeling the weather and seeing it, looking at the stars when you drive it. But it's rough and tumble. It's more of a cowboy. It's like riding a horse. It's like riding a big, loud, nasty red horse. Yes. Whereas this car, same kind of vibe, same thing going on, but it's a little more sophisticated. It's going to be a little bit better for going really fast because you don't have massive amounts of wind. You know, this thing, you start doing 100 miles an hour and more, and there's a lot of wind buffeting your head around. Frankly, more than I remember getting my head buffeted around with a helmet on in like an Indy car or a Formula Atlantic. So that's kind of a thing. So this is kind of a better sub 100 mile an hour car. This is a better over 100 mile an hour car. So just as a thought right there. Plus this one's got a bigger trunk and you can lock it. So for instance, today is my wife and I's wedding anniversary, and I'm going to take her out and bring her flowers and do nice things. And so this one is going to get put back and I'm going to drive this one. Plus it looks like it might rain too, and she probably won't like me if I take her out for our wedding anniversary on the big red nasty horse that will bark at you. Arr! That's kind of it relating to the ownership experience of these cars, guys. But I'm really excited to have them both as a mainstay on my channel. And like I said, on Monday, I'm going to finally unveil what my codename project, Jackwagon Jabberwocky is. That's going to be powered by the Viper V10. Nobody's guessed it yet, but what I'm going to do is get to finally write a chapter for Dodge Viper history that never got to happen and do it for real. And it's going to be epic. So I'm really excited about that. I hope you guys come back. These are going to stick around. So we're just going to let the history keep going and let them American bald eagles fly. Let the big red horse bark. We're going to power slide and do awesome things, manly style. And if you don't believe me, I got dirty jeans. I think that adds to my credibility at least a factor of 5. In any case, you guys should subscribe. Love having you here. We're going to have so much more fun coming this year. See you guys later. Cool thing happening right now at the Packard American Motor Company. They're debuting their very first watch. This is the 1899 Model A. It's a mechanical automatic movement with a beautiful stainless steel case. All the parts are made in Switzerland and it's assembled right here in the United States. If you happen to have a Packard, you can get your serial number engraved right on it, but you guys need to go to packardamerica.us. This particular watch is mine. I'm looking very forward to wearing it more. It's frankly very comfortable and one of the best watches I've ever had. But this one's mine, not yours. You can't have it. Get your own. packardamerica.us.